Last spring, I knocked out a thick patch of white clover that had taken over almost a third of my back lawn, about 1,200 square feet of it, using a liquid mix that cost me right around $2 to make. No backpack sprayer. No fancy herbicide. And here's the kicker, that clover hasn't come back. Meanwhile, my neighbor was out there every weekend with a $30 bottle of weed killer, spraying and respraying. And his clover keeps marching right back across his yard like nothing ever happened. Here's the thing. The big lawn care companies do not want you to know about this stuff because there's no profit in it. It's been used by old-timers and groundskeepers for almost 100 years. And once I figured out how to apply it the right way, I stopped buying expensive clover sprays altogether. I want to walk you through exactly what I did, the cheap product I used, how I mixed it, how I applied it without spraying a single drop, and the follow-up steps that make the kill permanent. And stay with me to the end, because I'll share a timing trick I stumbled onto by accident that nearly doubled my results the second time I used this method. It's the kind of thing nobody talks about in the lawn forums, and it makes a real difference. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly how to use a $2 liquid to wipe out clover for good in plain English, with no guesswork. Let's walk through it together. Now, before we go any further, I want to be straight with you. I did clover the wrong way for years. I bought every fancy bottle off the shelf. I sprayed broadleaf killers across my whole lawn. I even tried pulling it by hand for a whole summer, and my back paid the price for that one. The clover would die back for a few weeks, look like it was gone, and then by the time the next season rolled around it was right back where it started, sometimes worse than before. If that sounds like you, I want you to hear me. You are not alone, and you are not doing anything wrong. The advice out there is just bad. Most of those products treat the symptom, not the reason clover showed up in the first place. Then a few summers ago, I was reading through some old extension service notes from the 1940s and 50s, back when groundskeepers used a single inexpensive ingredient to keep clover and other broadleaf weeds out of golf courses. I tried it on a small patch, and within 48 hours that clover went jet black. That was the moment everything changed for me. Here's what I learned that I wish somebody had told me 20 years ago. Clover is not a weed problem. Clover is a soil problem. White clover thrives in lawns that are low in nitrogen and a little bit acidic. That's why it shows up in the first place. It actually pulls nitrogen out of the air and feeds itself, which means it does great in soil where your grass is starving. So when you just spray clover and walk away, you have not fixed the reason it's there. The conditions that invited it in are still there, so it comes back. Trust me on this one. The $2 liquid I'm going to show you does two things at the same time. It kills the clover on contact, and it changes the soil chemistry just enough to make clover stop wanting to live there. That's why the kill is permanent when you do this right. It's simpler than you think, and once you understand that one idea, the rest of the steps make perfect sense. All right, let's get into it. The first thing you need to do is identify what you're actually dealing with. I know that sounds basic, but I see people all the time mistaking other weeds for clover and using the wrong approach. White clover has 3 small rounded leaves with a light crescent-shaped marking across each one, and it grows in low-spreading patches close to the ground. If your weed has yellow flowers and looks more like a tiny yellow buttercup, that's likely oxalis, and the same method actually works on that too. If you've got a little white flower puff in summer, you're dead on. That's white clover. Walk your yard and just take stock. Are you dealing with a few small patches, or is the clover spread across most of the lawn? That's going to tell you how much liquid to mix up. For a small patch under 100 square feet, a single batch is plenty. For a big infestation like mine was, you'll need to mix several batches and work in sections. Now here's the product. And this is the part the big lawn brands really don't want floating around. The $2 liquid I'm talking about is a homemade solution made from iron sulfate, also called ferrous sulfate. You can find it at most garden centers, hardware stores, and online for somewhere between $5 and $10 for a 1-pound bag. That one bag will treat your lawn several times over. which is why each application costs you about $2. Some folks ask if Epsom salt works. It does not. You need iron sulfate, the kind labeled for moss control or lawn use. Trust me on this one, the iron is what does the work. Here's why this works, and it comes down to plant biology. Broadleaf plants like clover have wide, flat leaves that absorb iron quickly. When they take in too much iron all at once, the cells inside the leaf rupture, and the plant blackens and dies. Grass, on the other hand, has thin, upright blades and a totally different cell structure. The same dose that kills clover actually greens up your grass. That's the magic of it. You're killing one plant and feeding the other with the exact same liquid. This is where most people go wrong, so pay attention here. The mix matters. For a standard 1-gallon watering can, you want to dissolve about 3 ounces of iron sulfate, which works out to roughly 6 tablespoons, into warm water. Use warm water, not cold, because the iron sulfate dissolves much faster. Stir it for a good 2 minutes until you don't see any gritty crystals at the bottom. The mix will turn a kind of greenish-yellow color, almost like weak tea. That's normal. 1 gallon of mix will treat about 300 square feet of lawn. So if you've got 1,000 square feet of clover, you're looking at 3 to 4 gallons of mix, which is still only about $2 per batch in product. That's the whole reason this is so attractive. You're spending pocket change to do the work of a $40 bottle. Now let me show you exactly how to apply it, and this is where the no-spray part comes in. Forget about your sprayer. Sprayers cause drift, they waste product, and they get the liquid where you don't want it. What I use instead is just a regular plastic watering can with a rose attachment on the end, the kind with all the little holes. The same one you'd use to water flowers. Wait until your lawn is dry, ideally mid-morning after the dew has burned off, but before the heat of the afternoon. You want air temperatures somewhere between 60 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Too hot and the iron can burn your grass. Too cold and the clover won't absorb it well. Walk slowly across your clover patches and pour the mix evenly over the leaves. You're not trying to soak the soil, you're coating the leaves. A nice steady pour from the watering can does this perfectly without any drift, which means you can treat clover right next to flower beds, vegetable gardens, or your driveway with no worry at all. Within 12 to 24 hours, you'll see the clover start to turn dark, almost black. By 48 hours, it'll look like somebody took a torch to it. Your grass, on the other hand, will be a deeper, richer green than it was before. That's the iron going to work in 2 directions at once. Real quick, before we get into the follow-up steps, I want to mention something. What I'm sharing with you today is one piece of a much bigger system I've put together over the years. If you're tired of fighting clover, crabgrass, dandelions, and all the other usual suspects season after season, I put everything I know into a guide called Larry's 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol. It's normally $47, but right now it's $17. Inside you'll find the exact day-by-day schedule I follow, how to identify the 7 most common lawn weeds, pre-emergent timing that actually works, and a full seasonal maintenance calendar so you stop guessing. Scan the QR code on screen or hit the link in the description below. All right, let's keep going. So you've killed the clover, the leaves are blackened, the patch looks crispy, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself. But here's where most folks stop, and that's a mistake. Killing the top of the plant is not the whole job. You still need to handle what's underneath and what's around it, or new clover seeds will sprout right back in those bare spots within a few weeks. Here's what you do. About 7 to 10 days after your iron application, once the dead clover has dried up and you can rake it out, gently scratch the bare areas with a metal garden rake. You're not trying to dig down. You just want to scuff the surface to expose a little bit of soil so new grass seed can make contact. Pull out the dead clover and any loose debris. Now you're going to overseed those bare spots. This is the most important follow-up step because empty soil is an invitation for new weeds. Use a quality grass seed that matches your existing lawn. For cool season lawns in zones 3 through 6, a Kentucky bluegrass and tall fescue blend works great. I personally like Jonathan Green Black Beauty Ultra. For warm season lawns in zones 7 through 10, look at Bermuda or Zoysia depending on what you've already got. Don't mix grass types. That's a recipe for a patchy-looking yard. Spread the seed at about 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet for cool season grass, or 2 pounds per 1,000 for warm season. You can do this with a small handheld spreader or just by hand for small spots. Press it lightly into the soil with the back of a rake, or just walk on it. This next part is where most people go wrong, so listen up. After you seed, you need to keep that area damp for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Not soaking wet. Damp, like a wrung-out sponge. Water lightly twice a day, once in the morning and once in the late afternoon. If you let those new seedlings dry out, they'll die before they ever get going, and the clover will absolutely take advantage of that bare ground. Now, here's where you'll really start to see results. Once your grass seed has germinated and you've mowed it once or twice, it's time to feed your lawn. Remember what I said earlier, clover thrives in low nitrogen soil. So if you want clover to stay gone permanently, you have to give your grass the nitrogen it's been starving for. Apply a balanced lawn fertilizer about 3 to 4 weeks after your iron application. Look for something in the range of 20 to 25% nitrogen on the label. The Anderson's makes a good one, and so does my Lorgonite if you prefer organic. Spread it according to the bag directions, usually about 3 to 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Water it in lightly afterward. Here's why this matters. When your grass has plenty of nitrogen, it grows thick and dense. Thick, dense grass shades the soil, which means clover seeds can't get the sunlight they need to germinate. You've now created an environment where clover physically cannot get a foothold. That's the secret to the permanent kill. You're not just removing the clover. You're removing the conditions that made clover possible. The last thing I want you to do is set yourself up for the long haul. About 6 to 8 weeks after your initial application, walk your lawn again and look for any small clover sprouts trying to make a comeback. There almost always will be a few, because clover seeds can sit dormant in the soil for years, just waiting for an opportunity. If you spot any, hit them with a small batch of the same iron mix using your watering can. Spot treatment is fast, cheap, and keeps things from getting out of hand. Then go forward with regular lawn care. Mow at the right height, which for cool season grass is between 3 and 3.5 inches, and for warm season grass is somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 inches depending on the variety. Never cut more than 1/3 of the blade height at a time. Fertilize about every 6 to 8 weeks during the growing season. Water deeply but infrequently, which means about 1 inch of water per week applied in 1 or 2 soaks rather than light daily sprinkles. Do those things, and your clover days are behind you for good. All right, let me share a few patterns I see all the time that keep people stuck. I made every one of these mistakes myself, so this isn't me lecturing. This is just me telling you what to watch out for. The first pattern is using the wrong product. I see folks grab a bottle of broad-spectrum weed killer and dump it across their whole lawn. The problem is most of those products either don't kill clover well, or they damage your grass right alongside it. The iron sulfate method is targeted, cheap, and grass-safe. Use it instead. The second pattern is treating only the visible clover and forgetting about the soil. I did this for years. I'd kill a patch, feel good about myself, and then 6 months later I'd be staring at brand new clover in the exact same spot. The reason was simple. I never fed my grass. I never closed up the bare soil. I never gave the lawn what it needed to crowd clover out. Don't skip the follow-up steps. They are not optional. The third pattern is bad timing. People apply weed killers in the heat of summer when temperatures are above 85 degrees, or in the dead cold of late fall. Iron sulfate works best between 60 and 75 degrees on a calm day when the clover is actively growing. Spring and early fall are your best windows. If it's too hot, you'll burn the grass. If it's too cold, the clover won't take in the iron. The fourth pattern is impatience. After you apply the iron, the clover is going to look dead and ugly for about a week. Some folks panic and start dumping more product on top of it, or they rake it up too soon and disturb the soil. Give it time. Let the kill finish on its own. Then move into your reseed and feed steps in the right order. Trust the process. Now let me give you that bonus tip I promised you at the start. This one I stumbled onto completely by accident the second year I used this method. The first time I applied iron sulfate, I did it mid-morning on a dry lawn. Got good results. The second year, I happened to apply it early in the morning when the clover leaves were still wet with dew. I figured that might dilute the mix, but I went ahead anyway because I had the time. The result was almost double the kill rate. Faster blackening, deeper penetration, and noticeably less regrowth. Here's why it works. The dew on the clover leaves acts like a magnet for the iron solution. The water on the leaves draws the mix outward and helps it spread evenly across the entire surface of the leaf instead of beating up and rolling off. More leaf coverage means more iron absorbed, which means a faster, deeper kill. So if you can manage it, apply your iron sulfate mix early in the morning, ideally between 6 and 8 in the morning, while the dew is still sitting on the clover leaves. Just check that no rain is forecast for at least 12 hours afterward, because rain within that window will wash the iron off before it can fully absorb. This one tweak made the biggest difference of any adjustment I've ever tried. It costs nothing extra, and it nearly doubles your results. Now look, what I shared with you today is the single most effective clover kill I've ever used, but it's just one weapon in the toolkit. If you're dealing with crabgrass, dandelions, creeping Charlie, or any of the other usual headaches, the same kind of cheap, targeted thinking applies, and I lay all of it out in Larry's 30-day weed kill protocol. It's normally $47, but you can grab it right now for just $17. Inside, you'll get the day-by-day plan I personally follow, identification photos for the 7 most common lawn weeds, exactly which products to use and when, my pre-emergent timing chart, post-emergent application techniques, spot treatment methods that actually work, and a complete seasonal maintenance calendar so you never have to guess again. It's written in plain English, no fluff, just the plan. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or click the link in the description below to grab your copy. So that's how I took a clover-choked lawn and turned it into a thick, green, weed-free yard, using a $2 liquid and a watering can. If this helped you out, drop a comment and let me know how your clover battle is going. I read everyone. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.